Okay. Phew. Going crazy. It's a nutty day. There we go. Oh, we can't leave. Okay, we gotta be careful here. Yeah, 2 crabs here. Okay, yeah, they're just the 2 crabs. And then the normal crabs. Okay. Howdy, Xavier. Good to see you. Okay, my memory does serve me. Okay, so I have some Impaler's Catacomb images in my my wait, was it Impaler's or Black Knife? Yeah, it's pretty sure it's Black Knife. Yeah, so I think I have some Black Knife Catacombs images in my Wyndham Catacombs area folder. That needs let's fix that now before I forget. All right, so let us adjust this. All right, so it's this one and this one. We are going to move you over to black. Skip these files. Oh, I already have them in here. Okay, I thought they were familiar. I literally just had the exact same angles. Okay, so we can delete these. Okay, these aren't in here now. Okay, cool. So that clarifies that. So that's good. That's out of the way. Yeah, so we've already done the run through for the catacombs and stuff. I pretty much confirmed what I need to know about this. That was the only thing I need to learn here. So that's good. Yeah, so I talked a bit about my Mikola stuff, but unfortunately the dog forced us to end it early because she decided she wanted to be a nippy little yuppie and go outside. And all she did was run around with her stupid stick. I swear, Rusty loved his balls and this girl loves her sticks. I will say though, because of the cold front that's been sweeping through the U.S. lately, it has been nice to go outside and, like, you know, run around with her and stuff like that. You know, I will say that it is nice. She gets to enjoy the cold. Yeah, we don't need anything here. We're good here. So that's covered. Yeah, I actually posted on Twitter earlier. Because, like I said before, chat, I've had a realization about Storm Hill. That whole Undine thing with a good old Dean the Raptor, whatever you want to call him, the Stormhawk. That combined with all the other stuff, like the swordsman talisman here, or the blue cloth talisman you get from the cave here, right? All of this has made me realize that, oh, the reason why there's the storm on Storm Hill, it isn't just like you know, the weather in the lands between can be quirky like that, right? Like, it's just supposed to be like some natural quote unquote phenomenon. I guess in a sense it is a natural phenomenon, but like super natural phenomenon, I guess, would be the way to distinguish it. But anyway, so if I think the storms on Storm Hill are caused by a fairy, essentially, that the fairies aren't just like river fairies, they're just water fairies in general, and they can take multiple forms that go beyond just the rivers. If that's the case, then what does that tell you about Weeping Peninsula and the constant rain buffeting? I think it's buffeting. Buffeting here. I now wonder, because I've said it before, I was always curious why it looked like there was this super highway being built from the ancient Civ ruins going all the way to Morn Castle. Like, that's very clearly where they were heading. But we don't actually get anything at Morn Castle to really give us a sense of what could have been here beyond one detail, right? It's the jellyfish. So here, right, we have the normal jellyfish. We very clearly see 4 distinct little tentacle things, right? They got little additional add-ons and stuff there, right? Like they split off and things, but they're very clearly like 4 distinct tentacles under that umbrella. But then let's go from the Morn Grave. I think this will be easier. Okay. But then back here, we can very clearly see you still got the 4 tentacles, but they're joined on the umbrella with these strange additional little strands on here. And this is unique to just the jellyfish in this area. And now I have to ask myself, is this because whatever these jellyfish's connection, because clearly they're supposed to be spirits of the dead to some extent. That's clear from the Anna or whatever. Like there's some kind of spirit of the dead. The question has always been why or how. But if they are spirits of the dead, I now have to wonder, is their unique shape due to a fairy? Because there is something here which is influencing them to take on these additional features, like they've been supercharged almost. Now, unfortunately, it's hard to say because we also have the jellyfish and stuff up by the lake, and we don't really see the same thing here. Though, granted, that could always be hand waved because the lake is frozen, and there's something specific about the freezing here. Oh, I have runes up there that I've never collected, apparently. They also seem to be a different color. Yeah, they're a little bit deeper, like a deeper blue compared to what we see here, right? Like these guys, they're like a really light blue. But yeah, you go through here with all the snowstorms. Now, granted, you can make an argument that the snow on the mountaintops and the freezing, all that itself might be the result of a fairy. Because we know the mountaintops wasn't always snowy. We know at least in one point, the mountaintops was green. And then at some point in its history, it stopped being green. And it's never exactly clarified when. It's only implied that it was so long ago that the Zamor were able to establish their little culture before the fire giants came in. And basically, you know, committed sacrilege by existing. So there is something. There's something about these fairies that I need to think more on. But you know, I'd say more opaque silver. Nah, this is definitely like a blue. I'm gonna call it a silver. Right, it's similar to this. I wouldn't call this silver either. It's definitely going for like a glowing, like they're going for like Star Wars, like old Ben Kenobi, Jedi spirit form blue, that type of hue, right? Like this is end of Return of the Jedi type spirit color. But anyway, the point is that I have not been giving too much attention to this, though I've always like made mental notes and I had these disparate things, but now it's starting to come together, and it's helping advance my thought process on this. So while I can't say I've like solved the fairies and the cosmology of the water and crap like that, I'm not going to claim that. I think this is an important step on that road. Oh, you mean the special ones? Let's go back and look then. Hello there, friends. How are you doing? Yeah, I can see why you'd want to say silver. Yeah. I still think it's a little bit more on the bluish, right? But yeah, I can see why you want to say silver with like the way they glow at the top here, especially, right? I think that's just a part of the see-through nature, though. Oh wow, you found the seam in the texture, lol. Overall, it looks like it's supposed to be like a deep sea blue, Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, they don't have additional attacks or anything. Like, they're basically just the same jellyfish. They just have a different texture. And it's only here. So, like I said, the only thing I can think of now is if we have fairies and they can cause... Not only can they create, like, river flows for themselves, but they could also cause weather phenomenon in response. I have to wonder... if this was some sort of sacred site, like this was some sort of like source of the fairy, right? And then Castle Morn was just built on top of it. And as soon as the Farum colonists did that for the Fringe Folk Rebellion Wars, that this area has been covered in storms ever since. I actually want to go double check the lore on all that to see how far back we can even, like, how far back do we even have reference to there being water and seas and stuff there? Because this stuff has been incredibly vague for the most part. They remind me more of the Banished Knight / Headless Soldier ghost color. Yeah, you know what? I can see it. I recall Headless Knights, at least the one here, though, having a bit of gold to them, though, right? That might just be the glow of their sword. It actually looks a lot whiter, almost. Yeah, okay. Build on top of the water kami, now the island is crying. Basically, that seems would be the idea. Is that whatever's at the source of, like, the rivers, the storm hill, the water, you know, just these water fairies in general, that seems to be, you know, what got built upon in this case. That's the only thing I can really think of to justify it. Now, the other argument is that, oh, the area has just always been raining. But with how much they try to emphasize the idea of rain and weepiness and tragedy, there has to be a reason why the fairy would be quote-unquote crying, right? Like, I can understand, for example, the idea with Storm Hill and stuff, and the idea of having, like, swirling clouds with, like, the whirlwinds and all that stuff, just kind of, like, swishing about on Stormvale. Because there's that flowing idea, right? So, like, there's always a flow, but in this case, it's not, you know, a river, it's the clouds, right? So I can see the idea there where it's like, oh, we constantly have these storms, but, like, the storms don't seem to ever actually rain up here. They just kind of become swirling clouds with the winds and things. And I can totally see how that can translate into the flowing water culture we see with the blind swordsman and stuff. Unless it's crying for the hero. Yeah, that could be like another option if for whatever reason the fairy has some like emotional attachment to the Morn hero. But it'd be kind of weird because like you have all these battles and conflicts happening again. And then like, oh no, it's the hero that would make her cry. That I think would be a bit weird. Like it would make more sense if like, you know, the conflicts in general would be making her cry, because why would this specific hero mean anything to her? Again, not even from the same area, right? Like it's not like he's a native or something. Like she's known him for a long time. Like just random guy shows up, challenges Godfrey, ends up getting raffle stomped by Godfrey. So yeah, I get the sense that like I'm not there yet, but I'm starting to like build it where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling like I'm beginning to get it. That's the nice thing about analysis. If you go through these things where like, you know, you're building, and then you hit the tipping point, and then suddenly it all floods and it all comes like, you know, flying together, right? There's a tragedy, I think. I feel like if the idea would be that the water fairies can somehow like sense emotions or something, or can like somehow see into minds or whatever, then maybe. But I think outside of those types of circuses, no idea. I don't think we have to consider that the water fairies somehow tie into the spirits we see in general. Now, I haven't mapped out every place we find jellyfish, but I'm pretty sure there's a good number off the top of my head alone that we don't see around or by water. I could be wrong there, but I think generally speaking, the jellyfish seem to just appear wherever. But I assume it's the same in the realm of shadow. So I'm not sure how much I'd want to lean on the water idea with them. Though it's always possible that, yeah, they can appear anywhere, but the game specifically tried to associate them with water in at least a few cases. But yeah, I'd have to think that one over a lot more clearly. Especially since his grave is at your hypothetical fairy home. See, that could work. The idea that like those buried on the ground, maybe the fairy like senses their memories or something or like that, and then like, you know, that can bring about tears and crying and stuff like that. Like, oh, you who took up, you know, the entire legacy of your people or whatever, who were so cruelly slaughtered, and then you so tragically failed to defeat your slaughterer or whatever. Like, I can see that, sure. Like I said, there's a lot to kind of go through on figuring out how far back this goes and why, right? Same thing with the mountaintops and stuff. But I feel like I'm slowly but surely beginning to get it. Hey, I am good to see you. Today is a good day. Today is a good day. A good day for all cultured fans out there. A happy anniversary, you might say. By the way, did you like my anime recommendations I gave you? I know you were looking for something to blow off steam. And I also told you to go take a run, so I hope that helped. You're not finding anything here? All this stuff is like, okay, yeah, for sure. Again, there's overcast area in Limgrave in general, but we can just consider that an outgrowth of the Stormvale stuff. Because obviously if Storm Hill is getting all those clouds and things and they're dispersed or whatever, obviously it's going to have, you know, knock-on effects on the surrounding region. Honestly, if I have one thing maybe I'm a little disappointed about, I would have liked it if they leaned into that more, where like maybe Liurnia is the place that's more cloudy and overcast in the south, but then the rest of it's really sunny or whatever, the further up north you go. There's also the jellyfish spirit star Maris, but that's from the non-canon Night Rain. Again, I assume Maris falls under the same stuff as some of the others, but like it still requires us to have a better understanding of like, you know, what the spirits are, the nature of their existence, yada yada yada. You know? Is it a good day? Did something happen? Yes, yes. February 5th is a very happy birthday to two wonderful characters. Brings a tear to my eye. They're 1 year older. Oh. Okay. Nothing over here. But yeah, let's get back to Mikala, I think. So, shut up! You guys aren't even loaded properly. See? I can see. There we go. Now you look better. I need to add this to Godric, the dumping zone. I find this one so funny. Wait, what? I guess I'm just crazy. Stranded graveyard. I forget where exactly this... I think it's like... There we go. There we go. Let's go there just to... Okay, now. Okay, so the hole is located here. Grafted Scion takes us all the way here to toss us. I was under the impression the idea was that, from the sounds and everything, that the Grafted Scion ends up messing up and causes us to fall in the water, and then the water flow takes us through Coastal Cave, and then through, thanks to the tide, we wash in through... Oh, no, this is... It's not what I want. There we go. And then thanks to Coastal Cave, we wash in from up there, you know? Fascinating. Right? I think the waterfall and stuff is around here too, right? No, it's over here, yeah. We got our... Man, these seeds, they know how to get around, huh? Yeah, I find that cool. Like, it's not like the same thing as the hole, but they actually do have like a little crack here. So it looks like they did account for that. Stranded graveyard, yeah. Yeah, I think I want to include all of this. I want to include all of this. Shame I can't close that door again, you know, but... There we go. There we go. There we are. Which ideas where we start at the beach where the Alabaster Lord is? Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's consistent with what I'm saying. That sounds about right. Also, I'm not sure you guys noticed. Might as well show this. I did, in fact, farm after last stream. That's when I got back with the dog. And managed to get our back to 99. Shut up! I swear, these guys. Listen, I know we're all tarnished here, but I can't be bothered to get you down. I'm sorry. You went through the proper due process that as demanded in the Limgrave Charter of Godfrey 49. What can I do? You guys just have to suffer your punishment as is proper. Just accept that you're going to lose the grace of gold that has kept you alive all this time and die quietly. Then they'll casually dump your body down here with the others and you can just be happy. Why is that so hard? I swear. Still technically an Erd Tree burial, I guess. Yeah, I'm liking I like the implication that Godric's people just can't be bothered. They're like, there's just, Godric's like just killing so many people. Because of between all the mismanagement and the grafting and everything, that they're just like, okay, we just gotta dump the bodies, okay? Like, they're not even trying. All right. Like I said, I need to update Godric with all this stuff. And if necessary, I will in fact have a Godiffer put into a separate one. I don't remember if I took the shot of this proper, so if I've never done that, we better rectify that now. Nah. There we go. All right. I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. I was like, oh, right. All right. There we go. Perfect. Spare the tarnished. No, I will not spare the tarnished. Listen, they went through the due process. By that, I mean what Godric says, Godric gets. Then we got the Cave of Knowledge down here, which, as I recall... yeah, it's just an expedition down here. Yep. Yep. It's okay, we're in the lake. We're safe now. Uh-huh. Is this the only part of the area with coffins? Yeah, I think it is. Okay. Would be funny if the sapling is from someone being buried within her tree seed. That's actually a very funny idea. I like that a lot. Someone just among the body piles happened to have an Erd tree seed on them. Oh, there was a weapon with you. Oh, let's actually restart that. I did not notice. I don't think that's the case for the Stranded Graveyard. I don't think there's any weapons dug in there. So we want to go up there. So we take the circular route here. Pass through over here. Interesting. It's broken though, so I think we see something similar to this in I want to say we see something similar to this in the Fringe Folk Hero's Grave. Like, I'm pretty sure these are like in the poison pool. So I don't think I want to look too deeply at that. It could just be, oh yeah, look, here's another one. Yeah, I think these are just more of these piles of the dead, and it's just kind of confirming that, yeah, these are like Stormveil type people, you know? Ah, damn. Damn. Catchy a pause frame on this. Damn. Okay. Ah, damn. Two of them, of course. Damn. Oh, that's a good one. Ah, damn. Getting that perfect freeze frame. Oh! We got it. We got it. Looks a little bright on this end for you guys. I want to just double check that's not like a filter or something I don't want. So 1 second. No, I don't got any filters there. Yeah, no filters. Okay. Okay, Erdtree seed fertilized with a corpse. Damn. Listen, whatever helps bring about another minor Erdtree. Yeah, just imagine that thing growing to a minor Erdtree. Like, is it going to burst through the ground and come to the surface? Or is it just going to, like, twist and bend underground? Like, that'd be an actual cool... Oops, I broke another one of those. That should be a cool thing to explore. You know? Alright. So this seems to just be an extension of all this with the burials. Oh, no, yeah, there's one at the very beginning. Like, as soon as you come... Okay. Yeah, they make it brighter here, too, and everything. Interesting. Oh. Yeah, all this... Oh, look, and more of this, too. Okay, yeah, cool, so... There we go. That's a pretty good shot, I'm not gonna lie. I like that shot. There you go. Yeah, all this needs to go in Godric. The Erdtree proper burst from the ground. That's true, that it did. So why can't minor Erdtrees, you know? Doesn't matter how deep underground they go. Maybe it'll just be a shorter minor Erdtree, you never know. This Godric soldier here to make sure Tardish do get up, don't leave. What a terrible post to be assigned. Yeah, not the best place to be escorting these nobles as they scour for random bullshit. And this guy's just like, ah! I won't let you molest these graves, or whatever they say. God, it'd be such a cool shot I could get from up here. I can already see it. I can see it. I see the vision. Anyway, we don't want to make a new character for this, though, right away. I refuse. Whoops. Oh, another one of these things with the... Okay, they're actually a lot more common than I remember. Okay. Cool. Yeah, and here. Okay, so this has to be another example of them just really lazily. Like, they have all their heroes, and Godric's forces just lazily drop them and create this giant poison pool from all the... all the mucilage and muscle and tendons and meat and flesh and skin and, you know, all that jazz. It's gross. I just realized today's title is Sussy. I don't know what you're talking about, I am. What's the lore on the ghost and this being a cave of knowledge, besides obviously just being a tutorial? Well, let's go back here and look at our boy, right? Brave Tarnish, take the plunge of learning and remembrance. Recall the arts of war and your warrior's blood. I'll be honest, considering they added this after the network test, I get the feeling it really is just a tutorial. Like to the extent that we have an in-universe like narrative we can construct here. You have a conscripted commoner who I guess is tired of taking all the Godric bullshit and has put his faith in the Tarnished. And so as he's dying, he's like, oh, Tarnished, you have to make the plunge down here where this expeditionary force is and use them to help recall all the your warrior's blood and all that stuff that you have, right? Because we have to remember that although obviously a good number of Tarnished are going to be fighters, most of them are descendants who probably have long since abandoned whatever warrior past they had to take on other professions and things. So like this idea is probably like, yes, remember the blood. Yes. So I think this is just a commoner trying to encourage the Tarnish because he wants Tarnish to screw over Godric. Godric was really not that respectful toward the heroes. Yeah, Godric's just not respectful, period, right? Like, Godric just cares about Godric. And when you have your overworked guys who are always in risk of themselves being on the chopping block, is anyone surprised? Like, seriously? Is anyone really like, oh no, how could Godric do this? How could he have his soldiers just dump them there? Like, the soldiers themselves probably made the decision themselves. They were probably like, screw this. I'm not gonna work any harder than I need to here. If boss wants me to dump him, fine, I'll dump him, but I'm not gonna like try that hard. Am I crazy? No. There's not. The fog is completely separate. Yeah, they just have more of the skeletons with the... Okay. You're supposed to give that to the tree, Godric. Godric. Oh, I just noticed it's got the altar. Oh. Also, I'm going to keep my voice down because the poor doggo is trying to dream. Now this is actually cool. I like this a lot because this is very similar to what we see in other catacombs and stuff. With the heroes' graves. Like you have this this opening chamber dedicated to like, you know, performing final rites and stuff, and then you usually have some sort of like back room here. In this case it happens to have a back entrance. And then you have this on the side, and this is usually the sealed portion. But in this case, this, which is the main complex, is sealed. I like that. I like that a lot. Yep. I think this is the money shot. I think we've got it. I think this works. I like this immensely. Maybe I would want another shot of this with the seal active, but for now it's fine. We'll focus on the seal. Again, this all Godric. Again, I want to focus on expanding on Tarnished hunts. I want to expand on this stuff with the dumping of the bodies. I think just in general we need more details about all the ways that Godric is so bad at his job. It's very important. It's very important for the lore that people understand just how much the developers want you to know. that Godric ain't doing so hot. I'm amazed how this actually, how well this worked. Just tossing that thing in the middle of the grace point, like it looks really natural. I am incredibly surprised. Okay. I think that covers what I wanted down here. Okay, now enough of me getting distracted. Going back to some of the stuff we're talking about with Mikola and things. So I've been thinking and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure this here. So obviously we have like the. No, that's not the one. Obviously, you have the black knives here, right? Pretty sure this is the only time we get to see like a spirit kind of roaming around, but like, you know, it gets the idea across. Let's have this here too. So we don't see the same spirit set up here, though again, that could be artistic license. We know we've got the one black knife here. We got the one black knife here. We got the one black knife over here where the corpse is. It's very clearly supposed to be the same black knife too from this, which is interesting to me because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the only time we see in Everjails where the bodies look normal, right? So I have a lot of questions there. Because in other Everjails, obviously there's like a spirit look to it. So is the idea supposed to be that you abandon all your body and they just look normal here, but they're actually not tangible? And then you have the fourth one here, just kind of like chilling in despair, like, this sucks. This sucks. Why am I here? So back to what I really cared about. Oh, wait, no, wait, here. I get the feeling this whole ritual thing is meant to highlight to people the origin of the Halig tree. Obviously ignoring the fact that we have all the glowstones that are used to help light the way here. I think just the general image of young Mikola with a plant. I think this is supposed to represent the original bud, which would water the Halig tree. And so everyone, so symbolically, you lighting these candles essentially lights the Halig tree like a candle tree. And then the sapling, of course, matures to a full tree. And therefore, by you activating the three different, you know, the idea that you are raising a flame and in doing so, raising the bud, the sapling, and then of course you take the final plunge that takes you to the full-grown tree, right? So that seems to be the symbol. Now what's interesting here, I said this I think last stream, that I was like, oh, this is like clearly a candle tree, and this is true, it's very clearly a candle tree, but I think is more interesting is that it's also the symbol of the Halig tree. Like this is actually outright stated to be the Halig tree crest. So it's like, oh, this is the holy tree. I find that on its own really interesting. I think it's still here, but just to double check. No, I think I killed. Oh no, yeah, it's here. Okay, cool. Again, we have, so this is another symbol of the Halig tree. Now, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't think this staff in the at the minor Erd trees is actually that relevant. I think it's just supposed to be the rotten version of the other staff. I don't think the devs paid it much mind. I think this enemy was originally designed solely for the Halig tree, but then they realized that there wasn't a lot of variety at the minor Erd trees, so they added some of these rotted ones without thinking, oh wait, the staff though is in the shape of the Halig tree, not in the original Erd tree staff, right? So I think the descriptions and stuff reflect that. I just think they didn't actually think about it. Millennia and Clean Rot Knight commanders have a different sigil for the Halig tree. The commanders, huh? Do we see commanders in Aeonia? Or are they only in Halig tree? So I would assume most of the ones we see here are the grunts, right? Because you have to have the... I assume you have to have like a big cape if you're a commander. Maybe Shaded Castle will have them. Yeah, maybe I should be going to Shaded Castle. I forget how many of these are down here in the south. Like, just big old land squirts doing your thing. Everything's bigger in Kayla, chat. You have to wonder what type of crystals these guys over here are sucking up. All right. Yeah, let's go Shaded Castle. Oh, forgive me, chat. The commanders can cast a spell that buffs nearby guys that does healing over time and buffs fire defense. Fire defense is interesting considering, you know, the whole Radon stuff, but I'm pretty sure the fire thing only came later with Radon's guys, so that doesn't really make sense. I guess you could also make an argument that's to defend the Halig tree from fire, right? Like, does this guy count as a commander? I assume not, because I'm not seeing a crest on him. Guys, crazy how detailed this model is. I'm so used to the Crucible Knights with their muddy ass textures. Oh, they're weak to fire because of rot. Right, I completely forgot about the rot thing, yeah. Completely slipped me by. I wish they removed the book from this statue. Maybe it was impossible for that model, unlike with the spear statue right here. But like they took away the spear and like the little like plant things that would normally cover it. So I wish they kind of did the same here. Maybe even remove that texture, but that would probably be asking for a lot. It's very clear they were just trying to reuse assets with the absolute minimal amount of effort. Oh. Scythe is commander. The sigil is for the buff. Ah. I'll have to see it then, huh? Like, I'm actually gonna have to, like, probably get into a fight with them at some point. I know the T fight at Halig Tree after the church room will do it. Oh, cool. Let's switch over then to a character that will do that. Not the best location for me to log out, but whatever. Yeah, we'll do Loki. We will do Loki. Halig Tree. Millennia has honor key. Oh, it's that simple? That's I definitely want to see that then if they have if they're doing a sigil thing for that. Also, I find it fascinating that this is like the only church where they actually changed it up. Like they didn't reuse the Dark Souls 3 stuff. Like I'm not used to that. Also not used to this to windows on the inside not existing on the outside. Yeah, they had banners dedicated to this. No hero's grave for them though. Yuck, 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 yuck. All right, I don't know where this window is going. Sorry to tell them this, but there's just a tree. I don't know where the light for that window is because it's supposed to come in. Yeah, I've never realized how this works, actually. This is actually kind of neat. Then you take like a ladder down or whatever. Oh, yeah. Cool. Lol, all the texture stuff on the side. It's fine. No one's gonna notice. Who would install a free cam on our game? Of course, they just have a candelabra as the center of the altar. Oh God, that's really hitting me. Some sort of representation, it looks like, of the sick and needy, maybe. Probably supposed to be a stand-in for the weak, quote unquote. Doesn't look too much like it could be Trina, but I may be underestimating her. So we want to go after you. Oh no, there are the windows at least here. Cool. It just didn't load in properly. Neat. Ah, they don't show them here. Of course, of course. Seems to be just a flower motif, though. Surprised they wouldn't use that in more places. All right, so pretty sure they're in here, right? Okay, yeah, these guys. Okay. We will put them in slow-mo so we can try to catch this, because I don't know how quick the animation for this is going to be. And we will turn on the AI. There we go. All right, I want to see this in action. Go on, do it. Buff your friend. Oh. Sorry, ladies. The hero's grave is the room before Melania's boss room. Yeah, you know what? Now that you mention it, I guess that does kind of serve the same function, doesn't it? Oh. Oh. Interesting. Fascinating. This one doesn't follow you either. It has its own set area. Cool. Not ideal, but it's something. There we go. There we go. So Melania's interpretation of the tree? Yeah, it would have to be, right? This would have to be like a Melania crest instead of a Mikola. Because Mikola is very clearly... Because here's what's interesting to me. Mikola has been using his quote-unquote Halig tree crest since he was a small child. Yes, I know, haha, he's always a small child, but like, you know what I mean. Like, since he was a child's child. So he's always sort of gravitated toward this image of a candle tree. And he seems to now have more or less kind of put his Halig tree in that same spot as it. So he's kind of supplanted the two in his mind. I find that interesting. So yeah, I guess the idea would be that, like, you know, Mikola has this very specific idea for his Halig tree as like a candle tree, a guide, right? And Melania just kind of sees it like for Melania, she doesn't look at it from like this interior, like deep, meaningful thing. She just looks at it from the outside. It's just supposed to be this big towering tree with a large canopy, right? So that seems to be how she interprets it. So yeah, there's a lot you can actually say there. Melania looks at it purely, you know, purely superficially. Whereas for Mikola, like, obviously, because, you know, it's his, it's internalized, he's been plotting and planning this for a while, right? It's something much more abstract in his mind. Much more deeply meaningful in that respect. Yeah, this is just normal. Yeah. Also, the rings the commanders cast are called Mikola's Rings of Light, while the generic Ash of War you get from a Scarab is just called Rings of Light. I think there's a few Ashes of War versus skills that have like slightly different names, but they're otherwise identical. I do know that there's a skill, I forget if it's for the DLC or for something else, where essentially it's Mikola doing like holy orders or whatever it's called. And it's or sacred order, I forget what it's called. But like it uses his crest instead of the normal like fundamentalist imagery to kind of highlight this. So there does seem to be this idea that obviously, clearly, this is supposed to be like his crucible, effectively, right? And I think, based on the fact that we have Erd Tree avatars and even tree spirits, the idea is supposed to be like he took a fragment of the of the Erd Tree, placed his blood in there, and kind of turned it effectively into the first like sacramental bud, which he then planted, well, in the ocean, as we can see, and cultivated it to become like his Erd Tree. And this is the thing that gets me. I'm beginning to suspect that Mikola has actually been, like, even before Ronnie, potentially, I think Mikola has been actually working to undermine Marika, and I think he was part of the conspiracy of Ronnie's conspiracy to assassinate the demigods and effectively, you know, make a strike at Marika's empire and all that stuff. I think he was actually doing that work. I think he saw his mother as flawed, that she didn't quite, you know, she had her chance, she and Radigan, they had their chance, they did it, but they didn't go far enough. Their gold wasn't pure enough, right? Like he felt like the imperfections were kind of like the flaws in the order, you know, like it's like, oh, you guys just didn't refine it enough. But don't worry, I will remove the impurities and I will create it better, right? So he's like, okay, if I need you guys to get out of the way, but Mama is not getting out of the way. So I'm going to kind of try to set things up to force that. And I think what happened was he got roped in with Ronnie, didn't realize everything Ronnie was doing, just supplied the horse. Because again, as far as I could tell, it looks like he probably just supplied the spirit steeds that they wear, the Knights Cavalry stuff. And I think when the Knights Cavalry stuff happened, oh my. I think he wasn't expecting that the horses would, one, end up in Morgoth's hands, and two, would be in this situation where Godwyn becomes cursed with death. And I think that's what kind of really spooked him, is that, you know, Miquella's like all about trying to bring in the weak and all that stuff, but like those who live in death exist outside the order, and there was nothing within the golden order that he could refine in order to make them work as it currently exists. And I think he was super desperate to try to make that work, so he's trying to get them to make the proper death and all that stuff. And that's why we see him make a kind of sort of weak return to fundamentalism in some ways with the epitaph sword and stuff. And then ultimately, as we can see, he just, you know, throws it all away because he realizes, oh, those aren't bugs, those are the features. This is all, everything was rotten down to the very core. He also wants to get rid of the concept of consequences to get rid of her sin. Yeah, he effectively wants to completely wants to change the samsara, essentially. He wants to create a new karma. And he thinks he can only do that by essentially seemingly trying to disregard gold entirely. Like, it seems like he's trying to create a pure light and stuff, which makes sense, right? Because he's trying to go with pure gold, and that's closer to like his ivory and stuff that he was going for, right? And then, like, you know, eventually gets to like pure white light and things like that. There is so much rot here. Oh yeah, like literally waterfalls dumping in the middle of this arena, and we never get to see it. Like, there's a little bit of clean water here. All that rot, like, what? That's a really good shot, though. There we go, something like that. So yeah, as you can see, my brain has been turning, going into, you know, the various, like, I'm becoming more and more convinced as I think it over that Miquella was, again, another one in the conspiracy. It fills in the last hole about how Ronnie was getting all these pieces into place and stuff like that. It makes sense why Miquella ends up entrusting the spirit bell, the spirit calling bell, to Ronnie to give to whoever Torrent chooses as his new master, and that ends up being us. And then Ronnie ends up delivering it, right? And it makes sense because, like, okay, you helped me out in this in my plotting, with seemingly nothing, you know, tangible you got in return. Like Rykard ended up getting the Blossom's Claw and stuff like that, right? Like, that was his reward. As far as we can tell, Miquella wasn't rewarded with anything in particular for this, so it kind of makes sense that it's like, okay, I'll do this favor for you, Miquella. And then you know, then they both go on their ways, no association whatsoever. And then it just kind of fits in with like what Miquella's doing, because it's very obvious that Miquella from childhood was determined to become a god, and you can't really do that if your mother's going to remain the god for the foreseeable future. So he, besides Ronnie, he would probably have the most motivation to take part in this conspiracy. So I'm curious about the Cold Without Order of Marika's incantation. I think the idea was just that it was a very raw spell, right? Like, she wasn't trying to make or use a spell that was like, you know, some sort of like crucible spell or some new spell that was going to fit within her fundamentalist, you know, developing fundamentalist ideas. I think the idea was that it just came from her heart, right? She just wanted to do something for her clan. I want to be careful with this stuff because, you know, I can die. Yeah, and interesting how instead of like the plants we saw with like, you know, the crucible little grass and stuff we saw in deep root depths, it's now this crap. Fascinating. Oh, but God, I forget the flowers for these are called. Are these called glory bells? No, maybe. No, that's probably not it. There we go. There we go. All right. Our friends. Just let it flow in. Ah! It's okay. I didn't want to live anyway. Anyway, so looking through all that, let me bring up the dock, actually. Let me close this order's breaking. I'm very happy with how this one's coming out as well, by the way. This is getting really detailed there. Like, it's actually going to be crazy how short Shattering's going to be compared to some of this stuff that I've been working on. Like, you would think the Shattering would be like, oh, wow, the Shattering is this big giant thing. It's like, well, you know, if we get into the individual demigods, sure. But like when you just like do a basic overview with like just Morgott as like, you know, the main thrust, because he's like the central player in all this in terms of the beginning, middle, and kind of indirectly the end. Yeah, there's not really that much. Yeah, the Shattering's just a weird conflict because they decide to arbitrarily like say like, oh no, it's over after Radon and Melania's battle, but like there's still conflicts and skirmishes going on between forces all the time. Obviously, Godric has his failed invasion of Liurnia, so like it's not much of a cold war. Like it really is one of those things where it's like they kind of just want to consider the Shattering like this past thing and the Tarnish like this new like era, like clean marks, when like they're still, you know, it basically never ended. Like the fighting and the factions and everything like it, they're still doing their thing. And the Shattering itself wasn't that long when you just consider its necessary event. So like, it's one of those, just one of those little weird details I'm not particularly enthused by for canon, but it is what it is. You know, we've all talked about our disappointments with the scale of the war. Yeah, let's go look at our hero's grave over here while I do that. All right. Okay, cool. I still have this all set up for you guys to look at, so. All right. So we got that. Yeah, unfortunately, Explorer's Realm of Shadows, the only thing we don't really have a lot of text to work with for us. That's a bit disappointing, but again, it's one of those, it is what it is. We got the art with Torrent and stuff like that. We just don't get a lot to actually talk about, you know, Mikola, you know, making his like, you know, little adventure around here. And this seems to be the point where he starts realizing, oh. This is also why I've been going back and forth on the brainwashing stuff. Like I've been thinking about it more and more, and I'm just like, I don't know. I really don't know if it makes sense for Moog to be... Oh, did I mess this up? Oh no, it's Haley Tree Roots. That's where it is. My bad. Oh, also the flies that go around the candles. Oh, I didn't really notice that. I'm gonna have to go back. I do see like little particles, but they look like they might just be dust. That's a little. Fortunately, it's using like the same leafy ember texture that we've seen so many times. Far too many, I would argue. Of course, we see one of Melania's daughters turned into that. Yeah, we consider all these, which they obviously are, like gravestones. Yeah, it's effectively an Erdtree burial of a sort. At the very least, it's a catacomb. I don't know if it's a hero's grave necessarily, but it's definitely a catacomb. Also, oh my god, I just realized, like, Melania is tiny next to this giant hole. Like, how big was Mikola? There we go. Yeah, they keep showing this figure. Yeah, I'm thinking more and more, this isn't like a representation of Trina. This has to be a representation of like the weak and stuff who Trina supports. Like maybe you can think of it almost like they are her proselytizers, right? They're her evangelists. There we go. Yeah, and the fact they're using them here for the burial, I think, supports that further. Yeah, I feel like Mikola would be the type who wouldn't want necessarily to have like when we go back to the church and stuff like that. I think Mikola might be the type who'd be like, no, I don't need you to make an idol for me. It's about you, you know? So he's like, no, make your idols and stuff to yourself because it's about what you're accomplishing, what you're doing through me for yourselves, right? Yeah, this is effectively like a crypt for the church up above. So yeah, it effectively serves the hero's grave because they have to be doing some sort of self-selection for why you're buried here and not in the graveyard upstairs, right? I think there's anything related to Trina, period, in Halig Tree. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't recall a single item now that you mention it. All right. Who thought this was a good idea? I want names. Who thought this was a swell idea? There we go. This you could argue could be Trina coded. Oh, look, the flies. I see them now. Little golden fireflies. They're so cute. They're so cute. All right, let's get a good shot here. Like, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, so this is kind of Trina coded, you know, similar to like the quote-unquote America statues in Heroes Grave. These kind of serve a similar function. I don't remember if we see these statues a lot of other places. There we go. The clean rots outside of the Halig tree will drop the Trina lilies, but here they'll only drop Mikola lilies. Yeah, that makes sense. I think the idea is probably that Trina's true identity as Mikola becomes revealed once you reach the Halig tree, right? Like Trina lures you in, and then like the Mikola it's like, oh yeah, that's Mikola. He's weird like that, you know? He's a bit of a weirdo. Honestly, with the way they have this, you almost have to wonder if the idea is supposed to be like someone was buried here. And then they went through the birthing thing. Like Mulaney had one of her daughters buried here instead. It's the exact same model as the hero grave statues, just different poses and complete hands. Oh. I don't remember their hoods looking like this, but okay. If so, that's cool. Because then, yeah, that's essentially like this kind of... They're kind of reusing that image then. Instead of representing, like, you know, Marika and her Erd Tree Order and all that stuff, it's instead representing, effectively, Trina and Mikola's Halig Tree Order. And this is like the big church here, yeah. These are the windows again. I like that. Oh my god. The low poly stuff. They reveal it all. Oh, you know what? I just realized. Is the Ember stuff just because of the... Oh, I think it is. I think the Ember stuff is just because of the Erd Tree burning. I didn't think about that. I think that's why we saw that in the other area downstairs. I think it was just like a mistake and they were like bleeding it through. There we go. All right. Their own little Garden of Eden, you know? They're like griffins with like swords. My favorite mural is the Halig Tree soldier holding a baby. Oh, really? That's cute. I'm just gonna have to accept that it's gonna look scuffed. Just gonna have to accept the scuff. I want to get a good shot of this church, but it's really hard with all the walls and everything here, you know? Okay, cool. I'm so far back there, there's no way you can see the pixels. Yeah. There we go. There we are. Protecting baby Mikola. Poor you baby, innocent little baby. Then you got some of this more abstract stuff. Morgoth, is that you? I do wonder if Morgoth and Mikola made some sort of like truce or something, or some sort of deal that allowed Melania and presumably some of his people and converts he brought to pass through and go all the way. Like I am wondering if Morgoth had something like that arranged. There we go. There we are. There are some skull motifs at Halig Tree. I'm not too surprised. Because clearly they acknowledge the dead and trying to bury them at the dead. Oh. Also, all the Miklo lilies here. Yeah. Oh no, I didn't pause proper. Damn. There we go. I do find it interesting how they have the golden leaves, but then they have like the red leaves all falling down here from these trees. I guess these are kind of like autumn leaves. I know I've seen yellow versions of these connected to the Erd tree, so. There we are. There we go. Now, it should be safe if we go back indoors, right? Obviously, we have all the Miklo lilies and stuff here. I don't remember if I picked any, so I probably want to come back here on another character. Probably Corey. Yeah, have a look-see here. Yeah, just to be safe, I'm gonna go down here. All right. We have the crucible lever here. Age of Plenty. Good old cornucopia. Our little horn of plenty. There we go, this way. Okay, yeah. Damn. Damn. This is gonna be hard. How far can I get before the flames disappear? Pretty far. All right, those start losing it though. Okay. Ah, too far. Damn. Take a shot, Melania's cape. Oh, I can do that, sure. I'm pretty sure it would be better to go to her model, because I'm pretty sure Zlosky has probably something like that. I think Katsudar might also have it. Sure. Oh, sure. All right, let's go back here. Oh, and now they can't let you see it. I see how it is. There we go. A tree motif. It never ends. I guess I'll have to worry about the interior of the church when I come to another character, because I can't deal with the burning embers and stuff. Yep, and there's the tower. Whew. Oh. This takes us close to the beginning. Yeah, it takes us close to the beginning. Uh-huh. All right, so I think that covers like most of what I want to take a shot of for now, at least with these guys. Like I was saying, the exploring the realm of shadow thing, that has to be the thing where I'm like, I would love some text or something to reference it, but fine, I guess we're just gonna have to reverse engineer it. The brainwashing of Moog, like I said, I don't know when exactly this happens. I'm separating it for now. I think it is a weird idea that Moog needed to be brainwashed in order to prepare to kidnap Mikola, because this creates a really weird dynamic where why the hell would Mikola not just tell Melania before she left? Like, it makes more sense for Mikola to essentially get unexpectedly kidnapped and then try to brainwash Moog and stuff to take advantage of it, because obviously I assume the idea would be that he would be still recoiling from, like, you know, obviously he was just hooked up to the Erd tree, you know, the Halig tree, doing all these things, and now he's like been forcibly separated mid cocoon process, which I think may be part of the reason we see him in the cocoon. I think the adult form is probably like a result of him like abandoning his like golden birthright and stuff like that. So I guess, assuming his curse is connected to his golden birthright, that he ends up effectively, what's the word? Well, you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like he ends up basically effectively like, yeah. I'm tired, Chad. I'm sorry. My brain is going to have some oopsies. Forgive me. Yeah, Great Rune, all that stuff. Yeah, explore the realm. Yeah, he's going to end up being brainwashed after the fact. There we go. It finally hit me. Sorry. The idea would be that effectively, once Mikola recovers, he basically brainwashes Moog to basically like pacify him, use him to the extent he can. I assume the idea with like Mikola bleeding and stuff like that is because of Ansbach, because they make a big deal about how Ansbach apparently like basically tore Mikola to shreds with his fighting. So he seems to have challenged Mikola, ultimately lost, but Mikola was so badly damaged he ended up like wrapping himself in another cocoon for healing, and then seems to have in the meantime decided to dream of the realm of shadow. Went there on torrent, kind of did his exploration, then eventually gave up Torrent, I guess because he didn't want Torrent to join him on like his ultimate decision, his journey or something like that, or maybe Torrent wasn't interested or have you. That'd be interesting. I think it's a stupid idea because it means he puts himself into the tree to save it, and then he has Mug get him out and kill the tree. Yeah, it's a huge problem because it just creates weird timeline issues, because let's assume Mikola like had decided early on that he was going to use Moog as a vessel for Radon because he sends Mulaney out to get Radon, right? And here's the thing. I don't think Mikola particularly cared if Radon came back dead or alive, because I think he always had in his back pocket this idea of potentially resurrecting him. That I'd be willing to believe. But I don't want to believe that Mikola was like, oh yeah, you definitely need to kill Radon. I think obviously if Radon quote unquote remembered the promise, or you could beat him into submission to remembering the promise, or like just defeat him and challenge him and bring him back alive, Mikola would prefer that. So I don't think the idea would be that he'd have to go searching for a vessel to put Radon in that early on. I think it's a weird idea that also the background music's gone, so let's fix that. Yeah, this will work. Anyway, so I think it'd be very weird if the idea is that Mikola effectively, yeah, back to my word, yeah, okay. It'd be very weird to me if Mikola effectively basically decided all this in advance, doesn't tell Melania, ends up getting brainwashed, kidnapped, ends up having the tree that he was working on, like, because keep in mind, the idea is like Mikola was still in the process of like, fuse, like this wasn't like he just like, the way it's conveyed between Gideon and stuff is like he was just in the middle of that. In fact, I think I have that here, or is it under the brainwashing stuff? That's the implicit fog. Yeah, Mikola kidnapped. This is like Gideon alluding to it earlier when it comes to the whole Lord of Blood stuff. Goes to hospital, tried to lodge himself in the holy tree, but before complete lodging, someone cut open the holy tree and stole the young child. See, this is very weird. Because Mikola decided this all in advance. Let's assume like he got put in. Then Mikola has Melania sent out. Clearly, if Melania is being sent to grab Radon, Mikola feels like he's just on the verge of being ready to become a god and do his thing. So like he feels like he is in a position where his plan is almost to fruition, and he needs Melania to get the last piece, which is Radon, his consort, right? So we're trying to say that while he was in the process of basically completing his plan, he decides that, nah, I'm going to ditch that and have Moog rip it out so that way Radon, like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I think it has to be that Moog was essentially, people be like, Moog being the allegations. Well, sorry, looks like Moog wasn't being the allegations. It does really seem like he probably independently decided. He was watching, looking for the opportunity, saw when Melania left, this is no better chance for me to go take Mikola. Does that, then while running off with Mikola and stuff like that, the Haley tree's going to end up dying. And in the meantime, Mikola takes advantage of the situation where he's like, okay, fine. I'm going to just like brainwash you and like pacify you and stuff while I do some more investigation. And I do wonder if there was something maybe that Moog or whatever, something about the Moog experience may have started making Mikola suspicious. Because there is still the question of how and why did Mikola know and decide to check on the Realm of Shadow? And I have some serious questions about that. Like, I do wonder if, like, Mikola ends up giving up on the Halig tree, not so much because what he was trying to do was impossible, but because he ultimately gets, it seems like he ultimately sort of gets a tip-off that maybe something just isn't quite right. This is like the Trina faith and stuff. It seems like the whole Trina thing seems to explode largely after the Shattering War. That seems to be where we see the most Trina stuff, which is very interesting because it seems like while Mikola and Trina effectively are both like going around having their little like horse date, I guess, like traveling around, their little honeymoon in the shadow. They're also coming out and converting masses, like having little like personal like experiences and stuff, and bringing people to the Halig tree. So again, I think up until this point, Mikola and Trina seem to be on the same page that, the Halig tree is the way to go, and they're bringing people to the Halig tree, what they're doing. Like, yeah, this is the visit land and spirit stuff. that I'm wanting to make for Mikola specifically. We know about the stuff with Freya. Yep. Again, it seems to be the idea is that Mikola comes to... Oh. That Mikola makes an appearance. Again, this would all be after getting kidnapped. Mikola makes appearance at the Church of the Plague. I assume because the Church of the Plague, like what we see with What's-Her-Face here, it's being used as... oh, wait, this is a terrible way to show it off. I think the idea is the Church of the Plague was effectively used as kind of like a medical center. Like that was the place that all the people who were infested and stuff were being gathered. There we go. And it just so happened that Freya was among them, and Mikola ends up appearing. As we can see, left a lot of his blood behind. And again, this is before he starts dropping some of that blood and stuff like that, right? So he manages to make an appearance that's substantial enough that his own blood is able to be shared and things like that. And he ends up, you know, healing people like this. Might also explain why we have supplies here already. Maybe they were from before then. So taking that into consideration, that seems to be what Mikola's doing at that point. So we have the stuff with Trina and stuff with Thiolier. Now Thiolier clarifies that he's a tarnished. It's also the same thing with Leda. Also we have Dane or Dan. So Dan, I'm not sure if he's a tarnished. Because all we see with him is that he's basically part of an order that seems to definitely predate the Tarnish showing up. Like, they seem to just be like, oh, we see the fallen leaves. We know where this is going. We have to now prepare for hard times. So they embrace, like, this very hardy aesthetic life. Well, but obviously using his brainwashing stuff on people along the way. So we get, like, Freya and company all being influenced by the charm. Of course, the Lyrian Civil War happens after the Shattering takes place, or at the very ending part of the Shattering taking place. So Loretta learning about the Halig Tree, making a decision to take the Albinorks and go would have to happen after the fact. So around the time that Mikola is making appearances out here anyway. Halig Tree in the meantime is rotting, as we know, right? And everyone's like waiting for Mikola to return someday. Yeah, this is one of the things I was talking about with the Scarlet Rot staffs, right? Like here it just says like ceremonial staff enshrining the shining golden tree of old. Well, obviously the candle tree image, that's supposed to be the symbol of the Halig tree, is not the golden tree of old. So like, and this is basically just because I think this was originally this, and then there was a different description on the bottom, but they moved stuff around. Like, yeah, I think this was an oversight. I think all of this was done where they were like, okay, yeah, there's going to be a raw version at Minor Erd Tree, so it's going to be this or what have you. But I don't think they ended up giving it at any of those Erd Tree avatars. I think it was only the one in the Halig Tree. So I think this is the big like flub typo of Elden Ring probably. And then this one. This is, again, going back to the idea that, oh, Mikola's already, like, or Gideon already has information about Mikola. I wonder who his source is exactly, if it's supposed to be like a random Halig Tree person or what have you. Because he apparently only has so much information, he doesn't have any confirmation on all this stuff. This is the stuff on Needle Knights. Now, this I think only applies to Leda, but again, the idea of the Oath Knights, they seem to come from outside the Lands Between. And Leda's thing here, yeah, it says like Faded Eyes, but again, recall the term for faded, at least the one they're using here, is the term for tarnished. They will use the term color faded, right? That'd be the kanji, faded in color. When they're talking about, like, you know, when they're using the full term for tarnishing, but we generally just translate this as tarnished because it covers the same idea. So it's very clear the idea is that Leda is an Oath Knight who came from abroad as a tarnished, and she ends up receiving the Grace of Gold from Mikola, and that seems to be it. Now, I don't know exactly why Leda decide she's going to kill all the other Needle Knights? Maybe the idea was that when Mikola had clearly decided that he was no longer going to, like, maybe around the time that Letta joins, he ends up deciding that he's going to go in a different direction with everything, and his Needle Knights are kind of like not that enthused, and then Letta's like, no, how could you do this to our Lurch, because she's so obsessed with like her oath she has now to Mikola that she kills them. And then Mikola's like, oh, we can't have you doing that. So he makes her forget about like her bloody impulse and stuff, and has her, you know, instead organize like the work, you know, the group that we have and everything with Dane. Again, I talked about this with Mesmer. There's this cut line where they say it outright. I'm gonna actually highlight this now. But again, this is kind of implied by the fact that he's asking about Tarnish, something that Mesmer should know nothing about. So the very fact that Mesmer knows that we are tarnished and what a tarnished is and what that means with his mother and stuff like that. Did I make a mistake here? Yeah, okay, there you are. This basically means that he has to have heard it from someone, and Mikola is the only person that really makes sense in this context. So yeah, I think they did this because they didn't want to make this too obvious. This is like, you know, some of the Quaalag lines and stuff where it's like, okay, this is pretty outright. She's schizophrenic. Oh. All right, and then we have, of course, Mikola abandoning Torrent, right? This I talked about already with the Spirit Calling Bell and stuff like that. This seems to be kind of all hinting at the idea that, you know, Mikola, he decides he's going to make his pilgrimage on foot. Whatever happens with Torrent or whatever is what happens, as we know. Torrent ends up going off and joining us. In the meantime, you know, Ronnie gets entrusted with this thing, and like, you know, it all kind of flows from there. Yeah, Mikola abandoning the Elden Ring. Yeah, so this is Ymir's lines, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, how filthy and mad his origin blood were. So so during this journey, Mikola meets Ymir and comes to the realization, seeing everything in the Lands of Shadow and all the stuff that was the hidden history that he did not know about. Radon apparently did, but not him, which I'm not too surprised, because again, Radon's a general and stuff. He would be privy to this information. And that's exactly why I had to abandon it all. I have to abandon it all. It was all the sins of the mother, even though it was the sins of the mother. That his pain was the... Oh, yeah, so this is the horn set now. Mikola said that he planned to abandon it all, that his pain was the ablution of the Golden Tree's cardinal sin. So the reason why Mikola is doing all this stuff with the crosses, it seems to be he's almost like apologizing to the land of the Realm of Shadow, right? Like he's going around, he's like, I'm sorry, land, I'm sorry, land. Like this is his penance. Like he's showing the land itself all over that he is in fact giving everything up for this new scheme that he's got, right? So it seems to all be working out in that sense. We gotta head down. And I have a suspicion that the horn set... I have a suspicion that he and the horn set met at one of these crosses. Like he was in the middle of doing that when this was happening, so... I think it's this one, right? Yeah, because I was very curious about why there seemed to be a random cross in a chamber. I think it's because he decided he would demonstrate there when he was going through the city. He met the horn scent or whatever, and he was trying to show the horn scent beyond just his brainwashing. God, I'm getting farther away, not closer. I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at this. Yeah, we're aware of that. I have to find this stupid thing. Yeah, we know the blood and all that with the golden eyes. Obviously gets rid of Trina eventually himself, because she is seems to be an avatar of his love. Again, not sure if it's similar to a Radigan situation where she can truly count as like a separate person, But at the very least, she's a part of Mikola, right? So. All right, no. Yeah, I gotta find where this I think it's right below me. I think it's somewhere down here. Somewhere over there, I think. Maybe I could do this. No. No. I'm pretty sure it's like here. Okay, no, I could do this here. Okay, cool. Yeah, up here. So I think the random location here in the middle of the city, when he's already got one here, I think maybe the Hornsen was taking care of the sick or something here. But I think the idea is that he met the Hornsen and then he decided he would do this here as a way to demonstrate his sincerity. It's also good because the Hornset helps us confirm that not everyone is necessarily tarnished, even if maybe most of them are. So like Dane might not be tarnished. He might be a native of the lands between. But the only way to be sure with Dane is to check his eyes to see if they try to give him golden eyes or not. If they don't, if he has normal eyes, then obviously he's a tarnish from outside and he must have joined the order after coming there. And then somewhere along the way met Mikola. So that definitely had to happen. And then finally, blah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I also like the idea that for him, because he seems to be abandoning the Elden Ring, that the idea is that like his little crown circlet thing, that would essentially be his ring, right? And it's the idea that, you know, his logic of kindness, and the funny thing is that his ring is, well, as we know, it's on his head. So kind of the idea that Mikola almost is trying to say that he himself is the ring, that his godhood, his rule, his reign is what governs the world now, not some Elden Ring. Abandoning Trina, we have all this lore about Trina and stuff. Mikola guides his followers. Yeah, this about bringing them into the realm of shadow for the plot stuff. We know sometime during the time that we're in the realm of shadow with this group, it ends up being that the Mikola enters the tower after breaking his great rune and stuff like that. So his great rune ends up crumbling basically, and then he ends up phasing his way through inside of the tower. Now they no longer has a physical body. And then he does the last bit of discarding of his stuff inside the tower, and then he moves on to the gate where he discovers a lot of things. He happens to find a lot of things with the gate. Kind of gives him a sense of the you know, just everything, how it all flows together. And then let's see, yeah, this talks about the causality stuff. Again, karma, cause, effect here. Yeah, in order to surpass the causality that has continued on since the beginning and becomes, I think this term for causality, I'm pretty sure this is used for fundamentalism too. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is, if I recall correctly. I think I remember seeing this term as well. That has continued since the beginning and become a new god who embraces all. And then aiming for the shadow tower. Yeah. The whole resurrection thing, this is the point I made, is that once he finds the gate, he discovers all the things about the gate. He also is like, okay, now I need to bring back Radon and stuff, but I need a vessel for that. Hey, I'll use Moog's body. So, hey, Mesmer, can you help facilitate getting Moog's body over into the tower? Because you're the only person that can bring physical bodies, who could open the gate so that way a physical body could pass through and stuff like that through your seal. So could you please do that, pretty please? And that seems to be the favor he called in. Use the corpse. Yeah, nothing here. Miquella's got, and then this is like just the general stuff on like the godhood and stuff and everything we up to our final battle and things. Quoting Ronnie's stuff basically. So yeah, I think we get a solid sense of like, you know, a lot of stuff that Miquella's doing and things like that. It's looking it through, it's like, oh yeah, you know, Miquella's timeline's I think a lot more interesting than like, you know, just kind of, you know, how flats I think some people have presented and stuff like that, that, you know, like, no, there's a lot more stuff happening in between that's very, very important to helping contextualize what Miquella's doing. And like I said, I am now beginning to strongly suspect that he is in fact a member of the conspiracy, which is funny. The idea that basically in the Shardbearer Alliance, Radahn was probably the only person legitimately trying to become Elden Lord. Most people on there either want to become gods instead, or they had no interest whatsoever in any of that stuff. Like, I think it may have been just Radahn, maybe Godric. Like, it's kind of funny when you think about it. Oh, well. Okay, guys, it's late. Clearly, my brain is, like, on, like, its last fumes. It's not lasting very long. Doggo seems to be tired and stuff, so I'm happy about that. So we're going to get sleeping tonight. Thank you guys so much for helping me and everything. You know, I love getting my thoughts out and, you know, chatting with you and, you know, getting suggestions and things, especially you, Xavier. Very appreciate that thing on the crest today. That was something I may not have known about for God knows how much longer if you didn't tell me now. So until then, everybody, bye-bye, later.